What is up, everybody? Welcome to the I Don't Give a Football podcast. I am one half of your host and team this evening or morning or afternoon, whenever you're deciding to partake in this particular show. I am Jonathan Risk, and I am joined, as always, with my second in command, the two-star general to my captainness or whatever. I don't know. MG Geek is here. MG,
Hello.
how are you doing?
I am fantastic. How you doing?
I am great. So this is the I Don't Give a Football podcast, formerly the XFL podcast, formerly a podcast. We did one episode last year before I had a mental breakdown for all things football related. So this is our version 3 of this show. What had happened was, MG,
Yeah,
is
you gonna tell this story?
yeah, we came back. We had all intents to do this. My schedule freed up in September, so it all looked like it was full steam ahead. Well, then the Raiders lost to the Panthers, and all hell broke loose. I couldn't watch football anymore. The Devontae
Devontae
Adams
Adams
shit
had him.
started going.
Yeah.
We had one guy in our group chat who was a diehard Chiefs fan who he shall not be named. I'd rather speak Voldemort's name than this kid. I don't even remember his name. That's how much I blocked it out. We have kicked him out of our groups. And since then, my mental health has been so much better. Since actually February 9th, my mental health has never been better. And that is where we could start off. The season ended with the Philadelphia Eagles beating the Kansas City Chiefs, and I have never been more happy. I know the season didn't end how you wanted it, MG, but with that
So,
being said, what are your takeaways from the 2024 NFL season?
first of all, my team obviously had the best season ever for them. I was absolutely like thrilled with how things started. The first few games, were like we can't be beat, So I was like, okay, cool. And then again, suddenly Aiden Hutchinson's legs on backwards and spiraling from there. We ended up with 13 defensive players on IR at one point, and it
Yeah,
would have
that's
been
a lot.
14 if we would have went to the next round. Our boy, Amik Robertson would have been on that list too, but his arm was on backward.
There
So
was a lot of broken bones, and one could only question the strength and fitness staff of the Detroit Lions. For those
I
that
don't know.
are unaware, MG is a Detroit Lions fan. I am a fan of the Las Vegas Raiders, so that will be our biases throughout this show, but we will talk about all things going on in the NFL and things going on in the UFL, sticking true to our
All things
roots. So
football.
all things
Mm.
football. As far as scheduling goes, we're going to try to keep this once a week. It might be a little bit more inconsistent during the off season, and we will be around more during the bigger dates of the NFL off season.
Yeah, I can
But
see us doing a lot of these episodes leading into the draft and then beyond, because now we're starting with free agency, and then we'll maybe take like a small break
we're
in the
definitely
summer
taking a
months and
break
come
off.
back.
We'll
Yeah.
do two episodes. Then we're at least taking a week off because I'm going to a Rangers game on our preset recording date. So the 18th that week there will be no episode, but there will be one
That's
this
fine.
tonight, and there will be one next week, which will be the Tuesday after the official tampering period begins. So we will get into all things free agency next week. But before we get into that, MG, I want to go through a couple things that have been happening around the league. Now, first things first, and this is a very simple one to get into, but franchise tagging had to be set by today, March 4th, and only 2
Two
players
guys, huh?
in the
Wow.
whole league
hmm
were tagged. And this is according to the NFL.com and their franchise tag tracker. T. Higgins was tagged, the wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now he gets 1 year fully guaranteed worth $21.8 million. And this is his second straight year getting franchise tag. The second one,
Wow.
and I'm kind of excited for this one. The Chiefs franchise tag guard Trey Smith. He was a Pro Bowl offensive lineman and will earn $23.4 million on the tag unless he agrees to a new deal before the July 15th deadline. That is the deadline that Higgins and Trey Smith both have. So if there's any teams wanting to trade with T. Higgins, that's kind of the marker that you want to see from. Now,
Trey Smith is probably their best O lineman, right?
depends who you ask. And that's why I am a fan of this one personally, because there were a lot of Raiders fans that were hoping that Trey Smith would not get franchise tag and would make his way into the desert at Sin City. And as a Raiders fan, and as the beating, I saw the Raiders decimated defensive line with only one real starter left on it, much like yours. Our defense had gnarly injuries all year. The Raiders and the Lions were, I think, the two most injured teams at the end of the year out of the whole league. But MG, out of these 2 out of 32 team players that were franchised by their team, what do you make out of this? Your team, the Detroit Lions, didn't franchise anybody.
Yeah, we really don't have anybody we need to franchise. We spent a lot of our last off season signing all our guys. So we've taken care of Penei Sewell, who's absolutely might be the best tackle in football,
Right.
Arguably. And then Golf. We signed Golf. We got. I mean, there's a lot of these guys. There'll be some coming up. Aiden Hutchinson next year, I believe. Yeah. And then Jameson Williams down the road. And there's talk about maybe not picking up his 5th-year option, depending on how things go. Amon St. Brown we signed. So we've been pretty diligent about that. Now we do have a lot, and we'll get into some of the free agents later, but there's a lot of free agents they do have to either sign or move on from. There's plenty of those, and then Zeitler, so a couple of our offensive linemen, some of those. So those will be interesting how we go about that. But I do like where we are. I don't think we would have to franchise. I never heard that brought up once in all the banter that I heard about the Lions on the offseason.
Now, here's my thing. So, and this is coming out of Philly, right? And we saw kind of how your defense looked at the end of the season. So, and this is coming out of Philly, like I said. Let me bring it up here. But Jeremy Fowler from ESPN is reporting, and this came out today, right? Yeah, this came out 10 a.m. this morning, that the Eagles have informed James Bradberry that he would be released when the new league year starts, and his agent can start speaking to other teams. This will save about $2.1 million in cap space. Now, the rumor previously was a man that you're well known with, Darius Slay.
I thought he did get. They were going to release him, but they changed it.
So that's the thing, is the word on the street coming out of the combine was that Darius Slay was going to be the one that got released. That never became official. This is from all intents and purposes from Jeremy Fowler. Seems like it is going to be official. So does that save Darius Slay? Or does Darius Slay remain on the chopping block? And does that lead, as he said on the St. Brown podcast, I don't have the clip here, but you can find it on YouTube, how much Darius Slay loves Detroit. He was almost giddy talking about the things that he still does for the city, and that the high school players that he trained with that are now in the league that are from the Detroit area. So with Bradberry,
Sauce Gardner is one of those, actually.
Sauce Gardner is one. Bradberry now on the chopping block. If Darius Slay is not available, because I know you want him, right? That's easy.
I would definitely. He would be. He would slot right into number one. If they don't bring back Carlton Davis, he's a free agent. If we don't sign him, then yes, I would.
But would you bring back Would you bring in Bradberry
if he's available? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Bradberry would be another guy that I wouldn't mind seeing in the silver and black as well. But moving on to some other news that came out today. The Rams have reportedly traded their center Johan Jackson to the Bears.
Jonah Jackson, know him well.
Jonah Jackson. So you know him well. So tell me a little about Jonah Jackson. I don't know shit about Jonah
Well,
Jackson.
he's strictly a guard. I believe he's a right guard.
Okay.
And he played for us, and he was really good. He was part of that first wave of that offensive line that was so solid last year. Um, and then on the offseason, he signed with the Rams. And again, he knew Stafford, so there was some familiarity there. And
Okay.
then, of course, now he's signing with the Bears, so more familiarity because he's going to Ben Johnson, who he played with or he played under. So there's synergy there. So
Yeah, and I think we should get into that real quick before we get into I mean, we're going to get into it more in detail when we talk about our respective teams because this kind of topic um a little bit interlaps in both of our lives quite heavily,
mm,
especially how the news cycle is going and how my Twitter account was going there for a couple weeks. But we both have new coaching staffs. Mine is
yes,
completely new. You have two new coordinators. We will get into that more when we get to our respective teams, but I want to keep this going on news around the NFL. And out of Dallas, the Cowboys restructured CD Lamb's contract this morning, and it moves up about $20.5 million in cap space for this upcoming season, and now allowing the Cowboys to hold around $17 million of cap space per the CD Lamb conversion. So, MG, what do you make about this decision by Dallas to
train wreck.
restructure? So this is
Everything Dallas, I'm not going to be nice to this team. I don't know what they're doing. Jerry Jones, um, mm, take a nap. Find someone to help you run the team, please.
so
Jeez.
the Cowboys are very interesting, right? Because you you have like there's such an enigma because they are the
Yes,
branding of the Dallas Cowboys. So you have CD Lamb, who's essentially taking less money to play with a quarterback that he doesn't know how long the quarterback's going to be there or if the quarterback's going to stay healthy. There's nothing
right.
proven on this team. The only thing proven on this team is Micah Parsons, and his ass might be out of there. So, literally, if this was the Arizona Cardinals, right? Let's just throw another team out there with a little less namesake. Is CD Lamb taking a pay cut to stay on this team? Absolutely not, in my opinion. So this, once, like you said, train wreck. This is amazing. If I was CD Lamb, I would be trying to get traded to the
Yes.
49ers, to the Patriots, the
Commanders,
Commanders,
yeah,
the
which they probably wouldn't trade to them, but
right, but the Bills, right? If I was CD Lamb, I would want to stay
the
in.
Chargers. Mm, oh dear.
Once again, our biases will show on this show. It's okay. We are aware of this. I would love to see him go to um I would love to see him go to the Chiefs if he's at the point of his career where he's going to drop 90% of the balls thrown to him and only show up in like 10% of the plays. If that's the
Mhm.
case, I welcome him to the AFC West. You know,
Remember Dak Prescott. That contract is going to be an albatross for them
it's
signing
already
players.
been hell. They had to get
Yeah.
rid of their nucleus and Zeke. CeeDee Lamb now has to cut money. They might not be able to pay Parsons what Parsons deserves. It is
Right.
I've
Mhm.
never seen a franchise with this big of a
Well,
and
here's
I'm a
something you got to
Ravens fan.
remember. Yeah, here's something you got to remember. And the guys in Detroit talk about it all the time here. They just added to the job the cap. The cap
Right.
went up big time. So
So we'll be going up next year to I think like 290.
yeah. So every time we do that, the cap isn't really real because all we do is restructure these contracts and just defer the money, kick the can down the road. As long as these guys are willing to do that, yeah. So they'll keep doing it. I think um, the Saints are like
Oh yeah, the
in
Saints are
cap
in cap
hell
now. Yeah.
for like decades at this point.
Yeah.
So so yeah, they will have to do something like that to try to get better, because I would when he in fact they signed that the day that we came into he signed that the day we came into Dallas and just left them all in body bags, along with our defensive linemen.
Yeah, I don't understand what's happening in Dallas. I don't know how you succeed. I don't know how you compete in that division. The only thing saving the Cowboys is that they're in the NFC. And no offense to you as a member of the NFC. The NFC is the weaker conference. There is no question about it. There is a stranglehold in the AFC between Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert gets thrown in there for no good goddamn reason. The fucking Chiefs are in there. You have the fucking you have the Bills in there. Let me think. How you have the Steelers? They're a quarterback away. The fucking trying to think of another team. There's a Florida team. I feel like somewhere down there. I guess
Miami.
Miami,
Well,
depending where Tua is at in his life. But like that's 7 teams I named off the top of my head.
Houston.
Houston's Houston's AFC. So that's 7 to 8 teams you can name off the top of your head that could fight for a Super Bowl any year. In the NFC, who you got? You have
we got I think you got to go now. Yeah, we'll say us, Detroit, Green Bay.
Okay.
I'm not going to put Chicago in that.
You put San Francisco in there.
San Francisco, Philly. So there's 4. The Rams. I still think the Rams are there. I mean,
every year you think the Rams can make a Super Bowl? That's the question. Is like without a doubt, this team is competing for a Super Bowl. The Rams, I haven't put them in that category since Aaron Donald retired. They just haven't been in that category. And now you're taking away Cooper Kupp. Yeah, you're keeping Matthew Stafford. I mean, we're gonna get to it. Maybe you bring in Devontae. Maybe that's the answer for the Rams to take them back to that level, but I don't see them there right now.
We have to add the Commanders to that.
The Commanders are on that list, sure. But Dallas isn't on that list. Jackson, there's no Tampa. Is Tampa?
Tampa's right there with LA, right? Kind of just a little below.
Tampa's in there because that NFC South is a weak division. Once again, a weak division in a weak conference.
And I will say Minnesota, if they can figure their quarterback out, and I don't know if a rookie's going to do it, they're going to take a step back unless they bring back Darnold again. And I don't know where you might end up with Darnold, for all I know.
God, we're going to get into that, and I hope not, but we're going to keep on pushing. I do want to – so another thing that happened in the past couple of days is the San Francisco 49ers have traded Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders for a 5th round pick. And MG, that is a bad bones for Deebo. Now you have Scary Terry, Austin Eckler's at the running back, Jaden Daniels, who
decimated me. I have nightmares. I have nightmares over that.
I have nightmares over
the chunk plays that they did on us in that playoff game.
I don't even want to hear it. Okay. Now put yourself in my shoes. All right. Put yourself in my shoes.
I'm trying. I got
Antonio Pierce's literal plan was to hire Cliff Kingsbury as the offense coordinator and draft Jaden Daniels. Literally the 2 things that the fucking Commanders did. So imagine where my life would have been last season.
Much better.
If the Raiders did what they intended to fucking do with Devontae Adams, with Jacoby Myers, we wouldn't have had Brock Bowers at that point, but you have Max Crosby on the defense. You have Christian Wilkinson. I hope he doesn't break his foot. Malcolm Kutz, if he doesn't tear his ACL. Nate Hobbs, Jack Jones, Jacorian Bennett, who is one of the top corners of the league in his 2nd season. Trayvon Merrick, who's probably going to be the highest paid safety in free agency this year. Robert Bobby Spillane, who should be all-pro middle linebacker at this point, and I swear to God, I will give a kidney to help get that man back on the field. Like I understand that you had a Super Bowl ripped from your gullet right there, but I mean, just the complete turmoil.
You had a lot. Yeah, you had a lot of turmoil in that locker room right off the bat. Do you remember? Okay. we're a little behind the scenes between you and I. So we text all the time football, right? We have
Unfortunately.
all our other chats. Yeah. So, sure. And there was a conversation, and I think it was on game day, and it was mid-season, and you guys still had what's his face? It's your coach. Help me.
AP or
Yeah,
McDaniels?
yeah. No, AP. It
Mm,
wasn't. It was this last year,
yeah.
and you were like, "How you texted me?" And goes, "What do you remember? What it was like that first year with Campbell? What was the sense?" And I said, "We were losing, but you could tell that there was something there." And you said, "I don't
Yeah.
feel that." Do you remember
Well,
that conversation?
I remember the
Mhm.
conversation, and it wasn't that I didn't feel it. It's just I at that point, I think that was when the Raiders lost to Carolina. I think that
Mhm.
was around there. And I remember kept going back and I would look at Dan Campbell's first season as the head
Yeah.
coach of the Lions because you want to get to where
We
Detroit
didn't
is
win
now.
till like week 13 or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
so
really late.
seeing that was the only amount of hope that I was able to cling to as a Raiders fan. And I did think, I will say, an Antonio Pierce led team never gave up, always had some fight, but the holes in the team from the quarterback position to the lack of depth in the trenches on the offensive line, defensive line, the lack of depth in the defensive back room at cornerback, and the lack of any type of functioning brain cells by the football operations and analytical department, which thank fucking God these motherfuckers have been fired for the first time in 9 years and brought in by this new regime
Thank
that we will get to. But there was
thank
so
God it didn't. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
there was so much good, but so many glaring holes that it was just I just wanted to hold on for hope. And I was still riding with AP at the end of the season, and we'll get into the coaches changes here in a bit, but we're on to a different day. I don't have to worry about a second season for AP. And what I have to say about our new coaching staff, I will get to in segment 2. But before we get into that, let's keep talking about things that happen. And
Yep.
the Athletics, Mike Silver, went on X and put out a post saying the 49ers would be open to trading him. Speaking of Brandon Ayuk, but I'm skeptical that anybody would take on that contract coming off an ACL injury. So Deebo Samuel is now with the Commanders. Brandon Ayuk apparently back on the trade block. I could see him finding a happy home in Pittsburgh. We heard that all last offseason and that they could still use a good solid number one wide receiver. Ayuk really wanted to go to the Commanders to play with Jaden Daniels, who he played with at Arizona State. Shout out the Sun
Right.
Devils. If you know me, that's my alma mater. And I thought Ayuk would always be connected with Vegas because once again, that Antonio Pierce Arizona State connection was deep, and AP helped recruit Ayuk to come to Arizona State and play his college football. So with all that being said, MG, do you think the 49ers move on Brandon Ayuk? And if so, where do you think that he
See, I
could
don't know.
possibly
That's a
land?
good question because I don't know. I know he was disgruntled halfway through the season, right? Wasn't he
Yes.
giving us some?
Well,
Yeah.
I think he was
Uh,
disgruntled the whole offseason.
I
Because he
think
remember he wanted he I
he
think
wanted
he
to be the number one, right?
well if my memory serves correctly, they were gonna franchise tag him and he wanted a new deal.
Right.
So they were gonna trade him. Eventually the new deal got worked out, and then in the season he tears his ACL. So right now it looks
And
like
they got that rookie they had that got shot, right? I can't remember. I don't remember his
yeah,
name off the top of my head.
the white
That was,
receiver. Yeah.
yeah, which they really like. So it's kind of, mm, I guess, but you're getting rid of Samuel too. So I mean, getting rid of everybody. I don't know. If it were me, I would try to sign him and say, hey, you're our guy. But I don't know.
I mean, I will tell you, and I thought I had a graphic pulled up here, but I guess I didn't. But if the 49ers are cleaning house like this on receivers, and we could talk about this now, there's one receiver that I feel like makes really good sense for the 49ers. No one has really linked these together. but I will be the first here. I think if you get Devontae Adams,
Yep. I was just thinking
just
that.
San Francisco, I think that's a match made in heaven. Now, here's my theory on it, right?
That scares me.
It,
Really.
it scares me, but it also doesn't at the same time. So here's my rationale. So a lot of people are assuming that Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, who will both be able to select their new home this upcoming season, will be a package deal. There's a lot of rumors right now linking Rodgers with the Giants right now. We'll hold off on that for a second just for this conversation. One thing
I
that was reported by Adam Schefter, and I don't think you needed Adam Schefter to report this to kind of know this, just at least from my point of view as a Raiders fan that heard all the press conferences and just heard everything Adam said when he first got to Las Vegas. Adams is born and bred in the Bay Area, California. He grew up a Raiders fan and wanted to play for the Raiders, but more importantly, he wanted to play on the West Coast so his grandmother could watch him play, who never seen him play in the NFL. Couldn't do that in Green Bay. So with the West Coast still being very heavily on Devontae Adams' mind, that gives you a few options, right? Some people are saying there's a reunion that could be brewing in Vegas, right? They're linking possibly Rodgers coming to Vegas as well. I can speak for most Raiders fans when I say that man isn't even welcome to the alumni brunches anymore as the Raiders, okay? He could kick rocks and flip-flops and break a toe for all I care. Not welcome. Just sell the house next to the golf course. It will be all right. All right. Then you go to the Chargers. Okay, well, if he wants to burn that bridge with his favorite team that he grew up loving and played for, go ahead, play for Jim Harbaugh and the shitty San Diego Chokers that never won a Super Bowl in their whole franchise career and have the most overrated quarterback in the whole league out of all 32 teams. Okay, go ahead, do that. Go ahead. Or maybe he wants to play for the Rams, a team that barely has a fan base in their own city because the city they're in is majority fans of the Raiders. Then the only reason the Raiders didn't come to Los Angeles and return home from Oakland is because Jerry Jones didn't want to lose his grip from the Dallas Cowboys fan base that he built being from Oxnard, California. So that's why Stan Kroenke got the go-ahead to leave St. Louis, which we've seen has been craving a football team, a professional football team, since they left. So you want to call this Rams house? The Rams were the only team to win a Super Bowl in their home stadium. Well, up until that point, the only team that was from the Los Angeles area to win a Super Bowl was the Los Angeles Raiders. So once again, before you start flying the flag of Rams house this, Chargers that, get all that blue, gold, no matter the shade, no matter the color, no matter the hex code, get it all the fuck out of there, because silver and black runs deep in Los Angeles. It always will be. So I take that off the table. So then there's one more. There's a couple other West Coast teams. You can have the Cardinals. I don't see him going there. I can see the Seattle. He's not going to go there, maybe because they're talking about DK coming to the Raiders. But that leads me to one other team, the San Francisco, California team that doesn't play in San Francisco. They play in Santa Clara. But as a man from North Palo Alto, as Devontae is, a city that is right there in the Bay, that's why I grew up a Raiders fan. What better opportunity to have your family, to be with your family, than to be back in the Bay? And if you have all this money from clearing out the Debo contract, getting rid of the Ayuk contract, it just makes all the sense in the world. Brock Purdy is about to get paid, so he can't bitch and moan about not having a real quarterback. You got one of the best quarterback and coaching combinations in the league right now. I don't know if you put Brock Purdy on 31 other teams, if he's this good, it deserves $50 million a year. I don't have the answer to that. I'm sorry. But all that being said, long story less long, it just makes perfect sense to see Devontae Adams in San Francisco. I think as a man, that's probably the best opportunity for him, just given everything he said. If he really did grow up a Raiders fan, I don't see him going to the Chargers. I don't see him going to the Chiefs. As if he goes to the Chiefs, let me tell you, this podcast is canceled. Okay, if he goes to the Chiefs, you will
Send you
not.
into another stupor again. God.
But that is where I think Davante Adams goes, and my personal opinions on why he makes those decisions. I think if the Giants want to pair him up with Aaron Rodgers to keep him in the cold, to keep him in these high-ass tax state that I currently reside in, then you're gonna have to pay him that East Coast tax. And I think if you're the 49ers or the Rams, or unfortunately the Chargers, I think you might get a hometown discount. And I thought it was the Rams all the way when I thought Stafford was coming to Vegas. So, I think it's one of those three teams in California. And if somehow it ends up being the Raiders, I'll dust my jersey off and wear it. But it will be an interesting time on the internet, to say the least. MG, what about you? What do you think about Davante?
Wow, that was a long rant to land the plane, but I like it. Shows your passion. I'm going to agree with you. I don't have a lot to say other than that. Sure, he's going to land somewhere, and I think it's better. I just hope he isn't insistent on going wherever Aaron goes, because that's you got to get out of that marriage. Okay, this divorce, send the papers, have the people, sign off on it, get the attorneys involved, get out of that marriage. You don't need him. You're
Yeah,
you're one of the best receivers in the NFL, and with the great guy, and Purdy. I mean, Purdy's good enough. You can get them the ball on the outside and stuff. I think it'll be fine. So yeah,
yeah.
good call. Good call. I was trying to think of another team that he would work with. The only other one in my brain that probably isn't even suitable would be I was thinking Jacksonville with
I don't think
Trevor
Jacksonville would.
Lawrence.
Yeah, no, I don't think he would ever consider that. I think if we're talking teams outside of the of those three West Coast California teams, and this is
Hmm.
once again just me looking at overall teams and knowing as a Raiders fan what is important to Davante, and that is a good fit with the scheme and a quarterback that will throw him the fucking ball. And that leads me to two and a half other options. Option number one, I think he would do really well with Josh Allen in Buffalo. I
Yep.
think that would be a match made in heaven for him. I think they
Might
have
be
other great weapons around him, and he would be able to be the star receiver on that offense with
the
Josh
Rams.
Allen.
The
I don't
Rams.
even
Another.
I don't even see the Ravens, just because um I don't think with Lamar's abilities that um Adams would be too happy when the ball
No.
gets pulled
He
down and
wouldn't.
he thinks he was open.
Yeah. He
And
wouldn't. He would not get. He would not get his touches. I was thinking the
yeah.
Rams. I was thinking with Stafford.
So
Mm,
my other option, my number two option, would be if Stephon Diggs does not return to Houston. I think Houston with CJ Stroud could be really good.
yeah, because
He wanted the Raiders to
what's his
draft Stroud.
what's his face? Is the broken leg, right? Oh god, I
Yeah,
forget his name.
Tank Dell.
Yeah, Tank Dell. Yep.
Yeah, so I could see him fitting really well in Houston. And my half, because it's like I don't really see it, but I could see it at the same time just because of what's around there. He has tried during the whole massacre of Josh McDaniels that was happening in the media outlets when the Raiders fired him. Davante Adams would continue to go on and tout that company line of being pro Raiders, but saying he did have a good relationship with Josh McDaniels. The New England Patriots have Drake May, not a proven quarterback, but a
Yeah, but
quarterback.
he's gonna be good. He's gonna be better. So yeah, that actually makes sense
So
too.
that's
So
my half team. Pair him back up with the offense that he liked. He liked the Josh McDaniels offense. He has said that numerous times. They have a quarterback. You have Vrabel there that could kind of tie the reins in of the get me the damn ball conversation. And I think that could be a really good fit for Davante as well. So those would be my outliers. So I just gave you 6 teams. that I think Devontae could go to. And I don't know where else you're getting this kind of coverage on Devontae Adams. Maybe on
Yeah,
the
it
Adams
might be a
show,
little we
which by
might
the
we
way,
might have, blew the wad on that one.
I would like to say I am a big Kay Adams fan. I think she's one of the best people in media in the NFL. And I'll
I'll agree
probably
with
get a
that.
lot of hate saying this, right? I don't want her to interview another fucking Raiders player ever again in her whole existence in television. Okay. Every time she starts talking to Raiders players, drama follows them. Fucking, she started doing a weekly segment with Devontae Adams. 4 weeks later, this man is traded. Every week leading up to that, I had to hear her ask, "What about getting traded? What about linking back up with your old buddy Aaron Rodgers? This, that, this, that."
See,
Now Max Crosby's coming on her show, and every time she's on the show, I gotta look
he's
at
asking about
Twitter
Detroit.
for a new
He he
fucking Detroit, Green Bay. He's going to Buffalo. He's going to fucking Dallas because Mike Parsons is leaving. He's going to fucking uh, yeah, New England. He's going to New England because they have all the cap space, and he loves Mike Vrabel. He's going to Detroit because that's his home. I am tired of it. So, Kay Adams, I beg you, I love you as a football personality. Stop interviewing Raiders players. Just stop. And it's not because I don't want the content.
To her credit, to her
It
to
feels
her
toxic.
to her defense, I think that it's already swirling before she's not stirring the pot. She's just kind of swirling it a little bit. But yeah, that doesn't make any sense, but whatever. Do you want to go into these other players? There's a couple other players on here that I want to hit.
Yeah. So right now, looking at this list real quick, today Pat McAfee broke the news on his show. Saquon Barkley has landed an extension with the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a 2-year extension, $41.2 million deal, makes him the highest paid running back in the NFL at over $20 million per year. Fresh off the Super Bowl win, Offensive Player of the Year award, and the historic 2,000-yard rushing season, Barkley's new contract featuring $36 million and fully guaranteed will also keep his $15 million in incentives that were on his previous deal. So it is a massive deal from Saquon. And before you get into it, and I toss it to you, MG, I just want to applaud Howie Roseman and Philadelphia Eagles. Although I'm in the New Jersey, New York area, and Philly is not loved over here, I wanted nothing more
He's
than
the best GM, and he's the best GM in football.
and I wanted nothing more for Philly I wanted nothing more than for the Chiefs to lose, not only lose in the Super Bowl, but get absolutely decimated and blown out and not even have it a question if they lost the game or not. I didn't want any argument back and forth whatsoever. And the Eagles brought me that. So I have a little bit of love in my heart for the Eagles. I could go without seeing Jason Kelsey so much. You're retired, go away. And that's coming from someone that played center all the way up until college.
He's going to be around for a while, buddy.
Well, Kylie's hot, so it's all right. With that being said, just want to applaud Philadelphia because they did not have to do this. This man had, I think, 2 years on his contract still already, or at least another year guaranteed on his contract. So no one was kicking down the door for Saquon to get a new deal at all. And for them to realize the contributions that Saquon made, something that the New York Football Giants failed to realize at any point in his tenure with that franchise and organization.
Did you watch that? What's the Hard Knocks? The off-season
Hard Knocks,
where the GM of the Giants just look terrible.
It's the reason why they have not announced the team yet for this year, because NFL Film, from what I hear in the streets,
I don't think they're doing it.
These are from my sources. They cannot get any team after that to come back, because I mean the GM of the Giants really just ended the show with everyone thinking his son should run the team instead of him.
Yep.
So that happened with that. Some other things before we get into some of the free agency buzz and combine wrap up.
I do have some comments about this.
About which one?
The first one.
The free agency
we just talked about the Giants. Yeah, the free agents.
Well, before we get to that, I want to knock out a few other quick notes things. So this is one. Mike Garafolo has announced that the Hawkeye virtual measuring line will be
Yes.
replacing the chain gain in 2025. So last year we saw the kickoff being changed. This year they are implementing this first down chain gain
I was
revamp
so furious. I
after
felt for
last
Buffalo.
after the postseason where Buffalo, I think in the opinions of me, I don't know MG's opinion, but I can tell you the opinion of me
I
and
think it
the
was
internet.
everyone.
Yeah,
Everyone. I don't know how they effed that up.
I think
Someone the
98%
league
of
should have
people
looked at
think,
it and, oh.
yeah. I haven't been that pissed off of a first down not given since somebody used a fucking index card to rip Derek Carr out of a first down against the
God.
fucking Cowboys. I was watching that game, active duty in the military, on post in a place where I may or may not have allowed to been having a cell phone. And I literally threw that alleged device so far out of my patrol car,
Over a playing card.
allegedly, over a fucking index card.
Index card, right.
But MG, what is your take on this change? I'm excited for it. I hope it
I
doesn't
think it's a
take
good
3.5 minutes like the test did this past preseason, but as long as it's fast, quick, and almost instantaneously, I'm here for it. MG,
Yeah.
what say you?
Anything to clean it up and make it better. This is very similar to what they use at the tennis in the
Yes,
on
to
the
Hawkeye and
USTA.
tennis.
Yeah, it's very similar to that. So it should be instantaneous once they get it down. It might take a couple of months. It might not be. I hope
Well,
they'll probably
you
use
should
it
be
in all the
practicing now.
preseason.
You should be
Yeah,
practicing
and I
now.
think they are.
Yeah.
What they should do is talk to our buddy Dwayne and see if they can test it in the UFL this spring. I don't know
Well,
if they're
they
going to do that
were.
or not, but
They were
were
testing
they?
it because
Okay.
remember in the XFL, the first season XFL,
XFL was,
they
yeah.
had
Okay.
that ref with the remote with the video game controller that was doing it, and it was so quick. And the one thing, and that we could go on this rant forever. We have all off season to talk about things like this, but I think the refs should be a full-time job. I
Yes.
think the refs should have off-season training, and I think that the person controlling this Hawkeye system should be an official that's in their 30s. I don't think it should be anyone older than the age of 45 trying to figure out any type of new technology. And I say that, and I get it's ageism, but as a 31-year-old, I will say I could probably figure out that Hawkeye technology quicker than you, MG, and you're probably closer to the age of a lot of these NFL officials.
Damn. I had another word that just went away. Yeah, I think this is fine. It'll be good. One thing I would like is the replay assist. I would like that to be a little more pronounced on on either on the screen, on the bottom of the screen when I say replay assist, so we know. Because there's been times they go, oh, that looks like a penalty, and then it's not a penalty, and you come to find out 3 plays later if they picked it up because they got help with replay assist. So I would like that to be a little more pronounced. And quite frankly, if they can do it that fast, we don't need these long, drawn out video guy under a hood when we can all see it. So I don't know.
No, this is easy, right? Let me just tell let me give the NFL some knowledge as someone that kind of knows the TV world a little bit as well. Obviously, I don't know shit about fuck compared to the people that are in these positions, but let me just give y'all my best expert opinion. All right. Take a note from the WWE, take a note from AEW, right? Instead of going to a commercial break, do the thing that you do on the Pat McAfee show, where you do one of those overlays of the commercial, you run the ad quietly, and then you have the stuff going on in the background that we could
So you
all
can see
see.
it. Yep.
And then when the answer comes in, hopefully it's quick, you're able to slide right back in there without losing the ad money. You're able to kind of fill that time at the commercial spot. You have transparency because the viewer will continue to see the refs discussing this and the ball hawk, whatever graphics that the TV people want to create right there. And you have it sponsored by fucking Heinz hot sauce or Frank's Red Hot. Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, sponsor it, fucking make it quick.
The only problem with that is the amount of money they pay for the sponsors wants the full screen and everything. So, but I get it. That makes sense. But yeah, that I'm all right with it. You know, if they can clean that up a little bit, I'd be all right with it. Make everything go faster.
Yeah. A few other notes. We're going to keep pushing through this. The Packers are bringing back Brandon McManus on a 3-year deal. McManus was with Jacksonville, had a bunch of alleged assault accusations that have come to been not true. Lost his career in Jacksonville, got picked up by the Packers on, I believe, a 1-year deal, and then today agreed on a new 3-year deal. So I'm very happy for him on that. The Seahawks have made several cuts to save $27 million in cap space. The only person on this list from DeMont Jones, Roy Robertson Harris, and Rayshawn Jenkins is Draymond Jones, because he was signed when Pete Carroll was there. So Pete Carroll now being the coach of the Raiders, I could see him possibly joining the Raiders, but we shall see. MG, question for you.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever seen a man grow his hands in about a month?
I don't think I have. I think that's impossible. At least it should be. Are you going to tell me that someone did?
Yeah. So someone's hands went from 8 6/8 inches hand size to 9 3/8 from the time that they were at the Senior Bowl to the time they got to the NFL Combine. Now, given the fact that I'm telling you a hand size, could you guess which position I'm talking about? And could you maybe
wide
guess on a
receiver?
player? No, not a wide receiver.
Quarterback.
It is a quarterback. And that quarterback is Alabama's Jalen Milroe. At the Senior Bowl, his hands were 8 3/4, and now at the Combine, they measured at 9 3/8. How did this happen?
Senior Bowl at? Where do they play Senior? In Alabama, right?
Mobile, Alabama, yes.
Mobile. Let's assume that the measurements are people down there can't measure correctly. That's what I'm going with.
But it's at all NFL doctors at both events.
Well, then it's the water. I don't know. I don't have a good.
Well, my question is, does the glove fit, or are you acquitted?
Why are we doing
this? That's my question. He lost 3 pounds, but gained
fingers.
Gained an inch on his hand. I don't like. How do you do? Are you just stretching? What is there an exercise you can do?
Yeah, I think somebody didn't. I mean, you can make your hands. Yeah, definitely. Over time, they will get longer. But a month, I don't know. I don't think that's possible.
Do they sell something on Amazon? All right, a couple other things before we get into some of this other stuff. JJ Watt might be returning, might be coming out of retirement. I don't know if you saw this. So JJ Watt got a message from a goalie who plays on Burnley, which is a team. Excuse me. JJ Watt is on the ownership of, and he said, "Quick one, mate. Fancy coming out of retirement for the Bengals next season," which JJ responded, "You don't allow a goal the rest of the season, and it's a deal." And when this was tweeted in January, there was no goal allowed. I don't know where this is at now, but I just wanted to throw this in because I thought this was hilarious.
I think that's just him lifting up his player. I don't think.
Could you imagine?
No, because if I would be very furious, because if he would have come out, he could have came out last year and filled in for Aiden, and we would have not missed a beat, and we would have been much better off, even though we did lose everyone else.
Oh, one of your own. You sure about that? You sure?
I don't know. All right.
And then another quick thing. Once again, this is pure internet. This has not been confirmed by any insider yet, but because this guy's a former Lion, I just wanted to bring it to your attention. But JPA Football, who's one of those weird football educators, reported that Jamal Williams will be getting released from the Saints, which makes sense because they're in cap hell. So there you go, MG. Another guy that could
we got our guys. We got our back. That's one position I'm not worried about at all. And Jamal was great, but man, he had the weirdest. He said some of the weirdest things. He talked in video game in what's it, anime speak, so you didn't know exactly what he was saying half the time. So
So you're
he was
not a
just
fan of Jamal
a weird.
Williams.
I I mean, he was on my fantasy team and he got me like 2 points a game. He's not gonna carry a team. He's gonna be a third down specialty back and yeah, be the hammer when they need it. That's all he's good for. So if a team needs that going into the season, and he'll be like the third depth running back, but he won't be a one. That's for sure.
All right. Well, moving on. Speaking of free agencies, the legal tampering period for the NFL starts on March 10th, and free agency will officially open on
I'm
March
sure we'll have
12th.
more on this next week, but
We
there's a
will, but
couple of good ones.
before, to give a little preview, let's go into a few of them. So right now, as I mentioned before, the New York Giants are still looking for their next quarterback with interest of signing Aaron Rodgers. Once again, we talked about this. There's the potential of relinking him with Devontae Adams, and this could kind of change how the NFC East looks as a whole if you have Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, and who's the fourth one that I can't, Jaden Daniels, all in one division at quarterbacks. That could make that division really interesting. MG,
Dude,
what do you think about this one?
and to be honest with you, wherever he goes, he's going to be a problem. I think he thinks the world revolves around him, and he's convinced of it. He's an absolute whack job these days. I mean, he's not the same guy that was slinging in um, Green Bay and killing me, pass back and forth kind of thing, as one coach once said after that Hail Mary on a Thursday night that almost killed me. Um, that was Aaron Rodgers at his best. Now, he's he's a year removed from that Achilles thing, so maybe he's a little more mobile this next year. But he only has like one. He's a guy you come and you bring in if you need a stopgap. If you bring in either. Um, I was thinking, with your team, would be like that, but like for the Giants, you know, I would if he comes in, I would also maybe look at Shador Sanders if he's there, and then he's behind Rodgers for a season. Now you got a stopgap, and I think that's what it's going to end up anyway. They're going to have a younger quarterback that just needs time, and he's going to go somewhere and play, and ultimately get injured and do all his weird things and uh, smoke whatever he's going to smoke, whatever tree bark he's going to smoke, and go on darkness retreats and all that, and end up doing weird things. So I don't know. I think he's gonna. I don't. I don't even have a team other than the Giants are one obvious, but exactly that stopgap quarterback, 1 year out.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is definitely a hippie. Um, him and I enjoy some of the same hobbies. So
Mm.
I will not label him as a problem, but for
I will
teams that
send
he
you
could
some
go
tree
to,
bark.
for some teams that he could go to, the Giants make sense, right? There's not a lot of teams that make sense, although there are a lot of teams that need
I got one.
quarterbacks. The
I
Raiders
got.
could make sense. The Giants,
Oh, I
um,
got one. I got one, and it's the same path as Brett Favre. It's so great.
I mean, the
Minnesota.
Vikings, the
Mm, It,
Vikings could use
it's
one, but
juicy. It's juicy. Him and I mean, dude, him and Justin Jefferson, if were to get on the same page, I'd cry because they would be a nightmare in my division. Yeah.
yeah, for that to happen, this first off, Sam Darnold is the
He's the
ugly
next on the
friend
list,
is
so we
the
can just go
ugly.
right into that one.
I know
Mm.
there's so much I want to get into because there's so many segues for this fucking Sam Darnold fucking cockamamie bullshit that's going on here. This man, Sam Darnold, is equivalent to the really hot girl at the bars fat, ugly best friend that won't let you talk to or buy her friend a drink. That is Sam Darnold at this. He is cock blocking every quarterback needy team. I wish he would have just got franchise tagged. Jordan Schultz here, and we'll bring it up here now because we're talking about it. Jordan Schultz is reporting that Darnold and the Vikings have been in discussions about a new deal between the two of them. I hope that happens. I don't want this man anywhere near the color silver and black. This man needs milk in all his coffee. He's not even allowed to drink his coffee black, as far as I'm concerned. Keep Sam Darnold the fuck away from the West
And
Coast.
he's a redhead. He's a redhead.
I don't give a fuck about the redhead. That could
I do.
give
I think it's
shits.
funny.
I give two shits about that. But here's the thing. Aaron Rodgers to the Vikings makes sense if Sam Darnold doesn't go to the Vikings. For me to even make that make sense, Sam Darnold has the possibility of being on my team. And since I don't want that at all, I can't see Aaron Rodgers being on the Vikings because in my head, they have to re-sign Sam Darnold or I'm going to have a fucking heart attack.
Man, he's going to be on the radar for you. That's for sure. I know you don't want to hear it, but that's
the only thing
you are going to sign a free agent quarterback. It's just a matter of where. I just feel like you're going to have to. There's going to be some guys that are going to be let go from teams too, and that's going to happen too this week. And maybe there's one that can fill a need. But
yes,
you got the ultimate backup already in Minshew.
And he might not be long for the taking. But
yeah, he might go.
Before we get into the Raiders and all their quarterback shit, we need to mention Myles Garrett requesting a trade from the Cleveland Browns right before the Super Bowl. He has come out today. Adam Schefter said on the Pat McAfee show, reading the text saying, money does not matter to Myles Garrett. This isn't about money. He wants to play for a team that can immediately start winning. So, and the Browns have said they have zero interest of trading him. So this is another.
It's going to be an impasse. This is going to get ugly, I think, before it gets better.
This is going to be another one of those fucking things that fuck me over as a Raiders fan. Because once again, I have a star edge rusher that also wants a new contract. So there's multiple star edge rushers that need a new deal.
It's going to.
Myles Garrett
cascade down too. Once one signs, the other's going to say, "I want more than him" because they're two of the best.
Which is fine, but we just need someone not named Max Crosby to get up. T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Hendrickson in Cincinnati. I have just named 6 edge people that all want a new contract this offseason. Okay.
That's the one. So obviously here in Detroit, we need another pass rusher. We need a stud on the other side of Hutchinson. And when this broke, everybody in Detroit is going, "Oh my God, what do we get?" And the rumor and our GM has come out. Brad Holmes has come out several times and said, the asking price is just too much. And the problem we have is we're drafting 28 and projected next year to be drafting in the same spot at the end of the first round. And there's so many teams that are going to be able to go, we'll give you 2 first rounds and such a player and a 4th round pick or something. And they're going to be they're going to be in the teens, those draft picks, not at the end of the first round. So there's that.
Yeah, it's hell. But these are some of the things that we just have to deal with as fans. And speaking of that, we are both fans of 2 particular teams, as we mentioned before. Both share the color silver. Mine just happened to be the cooler team, with the Raiders being silver and black.
You have a better logo. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, no, the best logo, best uniforms in all of sports. That's not debatable. And if you are willing to debate me, then I refuse to debate somebody with missing chromosomes.
Our black uniforms this year, you got to admit those were good.
You want to start me off on this rant? You want to start me off on this rant on the
no.
first episode? We're an hour and you want to start me off on this rant. Okay, we'll get there, MG. You know what? I'm going to grab a second microphone just so everyone can really fucking hear me, okay? This is what we're saying right now.
If you're going to go on a rant, keep it brief.
The Las Vegas Raiders have the best uniform in all of sports, and every single team has been trying to reach the level of coolness
I agree with that.
and dopeness that is the Raiders uniform. The Philadelphia Eagles making their alternative black uniforms because they wanted to be the Raiders. The Arizona Cardinals getting black uniforms because they wanted to be the Raiders. The San Francisco 49ers getting black alternate uniforms because they were tired of not controlling the Bay's fan base and wanted to be the Raiders. How many other teams got random black uniform? The Bengals got a random black uniform because they wanted to be the Raiders. Detroit got a black uniform because they wanted to be the Raiders. The Commanders added a black uniform because they wanted to be the Raiders. No other team has a black uniform before the fucking Raiders had a black uniform. And
black
that's
is cool.
The bottom line, because Habibi said so, and Habibi 420 just said, I just smoked your ass, MG.
I'm not even arguing. I never said that. I said they were cool. I didn't say that there wasn't an origin and someone else does it better. I just said I thought they were cool.
The Raiders rolled and crawled so the rest of y'all motherfuckers could walk.
Fair.
God damn it.
All right, I'll give you what you want so we can move on.
Okay. Speaking of the Raiders, you can't go without saying the Raiders this name without saying whether they're the most influential members of the Silver and Black that never once played for the Silver and Black, and that is new minority owner Thomas Edward Brady, and he is reportedly active in shaping up the team's new direction. So this all started in the middle of the playoffs, begrudgingly to MG Geek, where it was alerted that Tom Brady is We'll get to it. We'll get to it once we get to you guys, but I have to mention it first too. The Raiders were not on the short list for Benjamin Johnson to be his first stop as a head coach until Thomas Brady came along and somehow patched together a deal for them to sit on the table. This, my friends, circulated the internet with all these rumors back and forth, insiders going head to head, not in the Starbucks, not yet, but they were going head-to-head, toe-to-toe. Raiders insiders reporting that Ben Johnson to the Raiders were picking up steam from everything they were hearing. I had insiders telling me personally, and MG, you saw some of the screenshots that I had sent you, some of the insiders I'm friends with that were saying before the Super Bowl, they would be shocked if Ben Johnson was not coaching for the Raiders. Now, me personally, you could check the receipts at Official Risk on all social media, specifically on X on Twitter. Search it up. I never wanted Ben Johnson. I wanted him to stay far the hell out the desert. All right. He was on my list. He was on my short list. The guy the Raiders got, and that is Peter Carroll, is the man that I ultimately wanted once the Raiders fired AP. The reason for that is I don't believe in Ben Johnson. And I say this as someone that texted you, MG, throughout the season and said, I hope you guys win the Super Bowl. I am rooting for Detroit. I was rooting for Detroit since week 4 when the Raiders lost to Carolina. That's what I was doing. I was all in on my NFC team, and I wanted.
And it also looked like of all the teams to beat the Chiefs, we were definitely the front runner at that particular time of the season.
Yeah, so I was all in for Detroit. But the one thing kept just stirring in the back of my head, is all these people that had all this great hype coming out as offense coordinators. We could name them. Josh McDaniels, one of the greatest offense coordinators ever. He wasn't a great head coach. Adam Gase was a great offense coordinator. Didn't do well. What I'm thinking Howie Mandel. That's the dude from Deal or No Deal. Who the dude that coached Cleveland? He coached the Raiders too. Why can't I think of his name right now? Hugh Jackson.
Yes.
Great offensive mind. Yeah. Not a great head coach. Matt Nagy.
Cliff Kingsbury.
Cliff Kingsbury, proven right now to be a great offensive coordinator, wasn't great in Arizona. Matt Nagy, terrible in Chicago. Great as offense coordinator for the Chiefs. We could go on and on. Here's the one kicker, right? I named a name that was terrible as a head coach in 2 locations. You might be thinking, as a Raiders, that's my bias, and I'm about to say Josh McDaniels. I would say, sir, you're wrong. I would tell you that the worst coach I named on that list was one that coached for the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins. And that man is Adam Gase. Adam Gase was a terrible head coach. He had so many issues as a leader, as a play caller, as just an individual in the New York media. Adam Gase has mentored quite a few coaches that are now in the league. There is only one coach that I've ever publicly announced Adam Gase as their biggest mentor and biggest inspiration in their coaching style. And when I saw that, I was immediately out on the name Ben Johnson. When you are telling me that your biggest mentor is one of the biggest failures of a great coordinator turned head coach, I am out on you. So all the Chicago, I've been holding this shit for months. All the fucking Chicago fans that were in my DMs, all the Chicago fans that were mentioning me, that all got hit with the mute button because I'm not scared. I ain't gonna block nobody. You're allowed to see my content. I just don't gotta hear from you. All you motherfuckers in Chicago that were mentioning me, tweeting me, doxing my friends that are insiders at the Raiders because you didn't like what they were saying and you guys were just riding and dying with Adam Schefter. Let me tell you this, Adam Schefter hates the Raiders. He was a Broncos beat reporter, so he hates everything about the Raiders ever since Al Davis dunked on him in the middle of draft coverage, I believe in 2004 or 2006, when he said, "Hey, Adam, don't forget, you got to be nice to us now. You don't work for the Broncos anymore." Adam Schefter has hated the Raiders. So for all those people that jumped into my mentions talking about, check the scoreboard. We got Ben Johnson. You ain't get him. You didn't listen to your insiders. Y'all could suck a fat dick. Okay, Ben Johnson is going to be a terrible head coach. I am standing on business now, and if you want any proof of that, talk to the man right here next to me. This man lost out on a Super Bowl opportunity because your new head coach, Benjamin Bullshitter Johnson, was preparing a fucking coaching staff for a job that he didn't even have while he was preparing for interviews that he didn't want to fucking take in the middle of one of the biggest moments of his coaching fucking career. And for a man to already have a defensive coordinator lined up the day he got hired after getting blown out, making
that was fast, wasn't it?
Calls.
That was like it was like 6 hours after.
Making terrible coaching decisions as an offense coordinator, as a play caller, something you are requesting and saying you are going to do as a head coach. And I will be the first one to say I agree with all the fucking fans that were saying, why would he not take the chance at coaching the Commanders and drafting his own quarterback and go to the Raiders? Why would he do that and go to the Bears? It is the biggest lapse of judgment. It is ignorant. It is asinine. And the fact that he did that, MG, I would be scorching earth if I were you. I'm pissed off and I'm happy we didn't even get him. So with that being said, Pete Carroll is the best choice for the Las Vegas Raiders to lead them as their head coach. Pete Carroll brings proven stability, proven ability to build culture in not one, but 2 places. Some of the biggest marketplaces that go hand in hand with Las Vegas. He built a culture in Los Angeles, a city that is so rooted in Las Vegas and Raiders heritage that the Raiders once again brought the first Super Bowl to that city. The Seattle Seahawks, from winning with Geno, winning a Super Bowl with a 3rd-round draft pick quarterback, building the Legion of Doom, building a culture from an expansion team that was the Seattle Seahawks. I am happy to call Pete Carroll my head coach. I am happy to say that the Raiders missed out on Ben Johnson. I wanted AP. It is what it is. That didn't work out. But I think Pete Carroll is the best man for this job. I don't think that they're going to make a bullshit decision in the draft, as we'll talk about when we get to our mock drafts here in a bit. I am so excited with what the Raiders are doing. I have not been this excited about a coaching hire for the Raiders ever. ever.
I mean,
Actually, not ever.
you got stability.
When John Gruden came back the second
Yes.
time, I was ecstatic. I was
Yeah.
fucking in the middle of a Target doing a dance while my girl was trying to get makeup because we had to go to a club that night in Los Angeles. I didn't give a fuck. I was happy for John Gruden. Okay, let me tell you. So, with that being said, Tom Brady's influence is well known. Tom Brady
Can I
tried to
ask
get
a
Ben
question?
Johnson in the door. 1 second. Tom Brady tried to get Matt Stafford in the door. He's 0-2. But with all that being said, I think that these striked out misses for Brady are actually beneficial for the team and beneficial for him for an owner. I think all the L's that Brady have taken have actually helped from tarnishing his record as a minority owner that's making decisions that go wrong way quickly. And then we're having this conversation in 2 years where Brady doesn't know what the fuck he's doing as an owner. I think these two L's that Brady took are going to benefit him. I have faith in the front office with what they could do this offseason. And I hope they do what Pete Carroll did his first year in Seattle, which is where they brought in a free agent. They drafted Russell Wilson in the third year or in the third round, and they rocked with a veteran that they already had on the roster, and they let them compete. Russell Wilson won that fucking job over the highly paid Matt Flynn, and they won some Super Bowl rings. And if that's what happens with the Raiders, I am okay with that. But you need to nail the
Fair.
quarterback in the draft. MG, what say you?
Can I ask? I just want to ask this question
Mhm.
regarding Tom Brady.
Yeah.
What have you heard about this whole? How much can he be in the building, and how much can he do behind the scenes? Because what I understand, him and a lot of these some of these owners are taking on angel investors, and that's what technically he is. But he's Tom Brady, so of course he's going to have some football input. But how much he is, because when my coach at the time is taking handshakes and talking to Tom Brady, you go, are they talking about the game, or is there other stuff going on in there? I need to know. So that's the only thing. I
Yeah.
do you know any more about that or no?
So all I know is really what's been reported on so far. Depending who you talk to, there will be people that tell you Tom Brady has nothing but a role of a consultant. He's in a
Yeah.
conciliary role. That will be what the insiders are telling you. If you
Well,
listen to anything John Spytek, the new GM, or Pete Carroll, the new head coach
mhm.
of the Raiders, say, they say that they're so happy that Tom Brady's a phone call away anytime they want, and he's very hands-on with everything. The rest of the world thinks that Tom Brady's very hands-on. With what I
Fair.
understand the rules are during his job as a commentator, um, he's not allowed in the meeting with opposing teams, nor is he allowed in the opposing teams' buildings week of games, like to walk around. He's allowed to call games, and he's allowed to have passing hi, hello, small talk conversations with coaches on the field. He is not allowed to discuss anything in particular with about the Raiders or any job openings or anything like that.
Fair. Okay.
Much past the friendly hello. Now, whoever you ask on that situation will have their different opinion. Obviously, I'm biased, and if this was any other team and I still hated Tom Brady the way I hated Tom Brady in the 2000s, I would probably be on the side of, man, this is all bullshit. Get him the fuck out of here. We don't want him. But I'm biased, and I'll admit that. And I will also say that as someone with this much money invested in it, um, I have to trust that Brady knows what he's legally allowed to do and is not going to fuck up the money in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know,
Get
I
draft
feel
picks taken from you, stuff like
yeah,
that.
like
Yeah.
he wants to win. He doesn't want to get the Raiders punished. You know what I mean? So that doesn't help his investment. So in my opinion, I think he's doing what he's allowed to do, and there might be a little bit of gray areas just because this has never been done. But as
Right.
long as he's not out there, like I said, actively like dapping up Ben Johnson, being like, you win this, we have 50 mil waiting for you as a head coach. Like, obviously, we don't
See,
want
that's
that.
that gets out something like that took place, and then we got a problem. This is a
Yeah,
lot like this is a lot like with Detroit. We have Chris Spielman, who fills a similar role. He's a consultant. Of course, he's an employee because the Fords don't need to sell any of their team because they're one of the most, probably one of the richer teams in the league.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, that makes sense. If that's all he is, and I'm fine with it, as long as I don't hear stories of him hobbing it up with people on the trying to take, or even players. That would be like if he's down there talking to like a wide receiver, I'd be like, well, especially if that wide receiver is like on the free agent market for the following year. I'd be like, okay, I get it, but no, let's not do that.
And the one thing I will say is there's obviously always ways around all of this, right? You know,
Yeah.
Tom, you know what I mean? Like something as simple as
Hi,
Tom
I'm
Brady's.
Tom, and he's got his numbers in his
Well, no,
hand
not
like
even that.
we're in the
Not
third
even that.
grade.
Not even that. But you know, what if like is it technically tampering if Tom Brady has a conversation with his agent and his agent just so happened to be a fraternity brother with, I'm just going to pull a name out of my ass just for sake of having a name, but let's just say fucking George Kittle's agent it was a fucking fraternity brother with
Right.
Tom Brady's agent. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
if they're talking, you know what I mean? Is that really tampering? Like if the
Yeah, that's called
agent,
back channeling, and that happens all the time.
that's what
So
I'm saying. So
and
it's like
that's something that's never going to go away. It
exactly,
would be so. I guess that's all I
exactly.
have on that.
Um, Speaking of the Raiders coaching staff, Pete Carroll is the new head coach of the Raiders with some changes at coordinators. The Raiders are bringing in Chip Kelly, former offense coordinator for national champion Ohio State Buckeyes, to run the offense, and Patrick Graham will be returning as the Raiders defense coordinator for, I believe, his third straight season. The Raiders have projected $92.5 million in cap space, the second most in the NFL, to redo their roster, particularly with the quarterback position. Now, we got a cool graphic for this brought to you by The Nation on X, Instagram. They're really, if you're a Raiders fan and you're not following The Nation, they do great graphics. They really do. But this is the quarterback search graphic right now. On there, you have Matthew Stafford, who's grayed out. He was an option for us. Sam Darnold. Then you have Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, Marcus Mariota. And then on the other side, you have Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, Jackson Dart, and Jalen Milroe. So I will just speak this right now. I wouldn't mind Russell Wilson. I wouldn't mind Aaron Rodgers, Marcus Mariota if I'm like dire needs, Justin Fields if I'm dire needs. I am not sold on Shador or Cam Ward as quarterbacks. I would be much more comfortable taking Jackson Dart. I'm not sold on Milroe. I would honestly, as a Raiders fan, and we'll get into the mock drafts, and we could talk more about this while we lead up to the drafts. I am more in the sense of a Raiders of drafting the best player available at number 6 or trading back for more draft picks, drafting Jackson Dart or Quentin Ewers in the second or third round, and signing Russell Wilson or I mean, I don't want to sign Mariota, but if we sign Russell Wilson as that free agency signing and then bring in Dart or who's the other Ewers, I would be okay with that. That's where I stand right now on the Raiders ship. I wouldn't be mad at Aaron Rodgers neither, because I think Aaron Rodgers even knows that this is a one and done possible season for him, maybe 2 years. And Tom Brady has come out numerous times and said he doesn't believe a rookie quarterback should be starting. So that gives you the time when you either get Russell Wilson
That's what I said
Aaron
earlier,
Rodgers.
right? Stop.
Yeah. To develop a Jackson Dart or Quentin Ewers. MG, what do you think about this quarterback situation for the Silver and Black?
I like Jackson Dart and Ewers. I'm a little, I don't know. He's kind of there's stuff going on with him, and I don't think he had a good combine, if I recall. So I don't know what's going on there. But as far as that,
Ewers actually had a good combine. The person that didn't have a good combine, who I'm also okay with drafting, but this is maybe a third, fourth round. I wouldn't want him in the second round, would be quarterback Will Howard from Ohio State.
That was who it
And
was. Okay,
and
my bad.
only Will Howard's only on my list because of his familiarity with the offense coordinator, with Chip Kelly being his offense coordinator at Ohio State last year when he won national championship. He comes in already knowing the playbook essentially. So that would be really my only reason of being okay with Will Howard at this point, after the showing he showed at the combine, which wasn't the best showing. So
Okay, fair enough. All right. Yeah, I don't
um
like I said, stopgap is the only thing I think is you can find someone that can fill a year. Mm.
So moving on to free agencies, Tashawn Reed from The Athletic, one of the Raiders beat reporters, said the Raiders may end up spending a lot of their $96.3 million in cap space on bringing backs that's extending their own guys. Not a great free agency class, and there aren't many big names who will be available via trade. So I want to talk about this and our free agency
Mm.
in particular, which once again starts next week. The Raiders have 17 unrestricted free agents, excuse me. They already started re-signing. They re-signed safety Isaiah Palomalu, which I think was a great move by the Raiders. He was an undrafted signee by Josh McDaniels and Ziegler at that time, and has just come in and consistently improved and ended up getting a lot of snaps for the injured Marcus Epps this past season. There's a few players that I think are non-negotiables. I believe Robert Spillane, as I said at the top of this episode, middle linebacker, has been with Patrick Graham every season. Patrick Graham has been the defense coordinator for the Raiders. Patrick Graham has said he is the coach on the field. He is the quarterback of the defense. I believe Bobby Spillane is the singular most important free agent for the Raiders to bring back. The Raiders have not had a middle linebacker like Robert Spillane since Kirk Morrison, MG. And
Mhm.
if I have to tell you when that was around 06, 07, 08 time frame. Kirk Morrison was the Raiders middle linebacker. Trayvon Merrick is a guy who I don't want to say is a non-negotiable because I think he's going to be the highest paid safety in free agency. And although I loved him and he brought some stability to our defensive backfield since being drafted by the Raiders in the second round out of TCU, Trayvon Merrick does not have that ball hawking ability that I think deserves the money he is about to get paid. I think some team will give it to him, but from what I've seen as the Raiders, I don't think the Raiders should pay that. And the issue is, I don't know if there's anybody as good as him to replace him right now, and that's where you hope that Isaiah Palomalu might come. And lastly, I have Nate Hobbs, cornerback out of Illinois. He came from who is the coach that got fired? Lovie Smith. He came
Yes.
from a Lovie Smith coach Illinois team. He could literally play nickel or outside. He's the most diverse corner that we have. He could play any position, and he's good at any position. So good a fact that not last season, but the season before at the trade deadline, I believe the rumor on the street was the 49ers were offering a second round pick for Nate Hobbs 2 years ago in a trade at the trade deadline to try again from the Raiders. The Raiders said no. I think that Nate Hobbs needs to come back. His durability is something that is of question. Your best availability or your best ability is availability, and he just is injured every year. But with that being said, a team that has not a lot of depth in their corners, I think Nate Hobbs fits perfectly in the Legion of Boom that Pete Carroll could be famous of running. I think the stability of having him once again with Patrick Graham and already knowing that system would be great. And I think the Raiders defense would very much and significantly miss Nate Hobbs if he's no longer with the team. So that's what I
Fair
got
enough.
for the Raiders report as far as free agencies. Do you have anything to say about this before we get on to your Detroit Lions, MG?
I don't. I my big thing was what was going on with Brady and all that. And you guys are actually a little better off with your free agents than we are, and I'll get into that in a minute. You want to get into it?
Yeah, go ahead. Take
All
it
right,
off.
here we go. This is what we got for my Lions. As far as what he goes. So my goal with this is kind of put in like things about other teams as we go, and we'll do more of that and down the road in other episodes. But um, obviously, we're going to talk about our team. So first thing we got to talk about. And I need to thank Jonathan for something before I get into the rest of this.
Oh,
Obviously, my team lost in the first round or the first round of our second divisional round of the playoffs, our first
yeah.
game of the playoffs. Um, and I was on an emotional train wreck as that day. And Jonathan was the only one talking to me. And he was trying to talk me off the ledge that whole damn game. It'll be okay. You'll come back. It's early in the game. And then it just never got better. And then golf interception. Um, you know, Jaden Daniels, chunk play for to Scary Terry for a bazillion yards. I think he just scored again. I don't know. But yeah, thank you for being my emotional support and making sure I didn't crash out.
That's what I'm here for.
Having said that, obviously after that, we've seen a whole bunch of coaching changes, out with the old, in with the new. Um, Ben Johnson, don't get triggered. I'm saying his name again. Don't get triggered. But the other one, I think a lot of people don't realize how good Aaron Glenn was. There was 17. There was at one point 13 people on IR, and I said this before, um, all gone, and he somehow figured out how to handle Minnesota in that last game. Him and our buddy Amik Robertson made Justin Jefferson look like a nothing. Just shut him down completely.
Made him
Um,
look like
but
Jalen Rigger.
something like that. It just didn't. I thought that was awesome, but he did more, and he had to get creative and do more blitzing and do things he's not doesn't like to do. But he made it. He made it through, and he got us to the finish line. And losing him, I think, is a big deal. His replacing Calvin Shepard. Um, Linebacker coach last 2 years. He's really good too. Um, I don't know if it'll affect our defense. We are obviously getting Hutch back. We're getting Lee McNeil probably in October back. He's not going to be ready, I don't think, to begin the season. And those are the two studs on that line. Lee McNeil, because everybody's talking about Hutchinson, Lee McNeil came out and was like the top rated defensive as far as defensive pressure from the interior. So he's a stud. And then when Aiden went down, he started getting sacks from the middle. So yeah, I, our defense is what I'm most hoping that we can fix, and are bringing in a fresh defensive coordinator. I'm hoping that's if I had one question, what we're doing, that would be it. As far as the offense, John Morton's taking over for Ben Johnson, and he was Campbell's pass coordinator the previous year, and then he went to Denver last year to work back with what's his face? What's his yuck? Denver's coach, Payton,
Hackett.
Sean Payton.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sean Payton.
Yeah, so he was back with him, but this guy I really from what I know, Dan Campbell is really the architect of the offense he wants to run, and he's an offensive mind too, and these guys are just executing it. So you got to understand, this is still going to be Dan Campbell's offense. He's still going to freaking go for it more than anyone thinks, and I think it's going to be pretty good. As far as what we're getting back, I said it before. We're going to get Hutch back. We're getting Lee McNeil back. Um, there's still the rumors of bringing in Miles Garrett. At this point, if that were to happen, I'm just gonna I will be ecstatic, but I'm not expecting it because that our D line would be what Phillies was in the Super Bowl. They would just torture people. Um, and one can only hope, and maybe we'll get lucky in the draft, or who knows. There's also other names out there like Khalil Mack and Josh Sweat um, that I've heard, or not Josh Sweat. Actually, that's on here, and it shouldn't be because I don't think he's available. Um, but yeah, there's a couple of those guys. We have, let's see, $55 million in projected cap space, and we have flexibility. There's guys we have to think about bringing back. Levi Oldenreque, Derek Barnes. The one that I think is Kevin Zeitler, who's an offensive lineman. Our offensive line, and when we get to the drafts, I'll mention it. But this guy, our offensive line has just kind of it's on the verge of plateauing. It's the best. Philly and Detroit are the best offensive lines in the league, and I don't think there's much debate about that. But they're getting a little bit older, and they had a guy come off the bench this year named Kevin Mahogany, who did good and is probably going to end up starting. Zeitler might go. They're probably going to draft another one sometime somewhere in the middle rounds, uh, and hopefully just keep plug and play and keep going with that. The biggest thing, I hate doing this because I really love this guy.
Hmm.
It's Jared Goff. Uh, he was phenomenal all through the season until we needed him the most in that playoff game, and I mean, we've seen it in that Houston game where he threw 5 interceptions. We somehow figured out how to win. There was another game where he threw for 60 yards, and we blew out. Was that Tennessee? Or who we blew out by like just an obscene amount with him doing it. Like I said, the Houston game, and then of course the Commanders game, where he just looked off. They got to him, and they got him rattled for the first time all season. But when he's on, he he sees the defenses better than anybody as far as precision goes. If our line can protect him, he's scary good. It's just a matter he's not mobile. You have to protect him. The play action has to work. Our two-headed monster in the backfield were good, and they will continue to be. The difference between your team and my team is my team has, I would say, 90% of our starters already there. So anyone we
Yeah.
draft is going to. There's the only one is on like I said, we can get an edge rusher um, in the draft, and even trade up maybe a little bit and get one in the middle last half of the first round, that would be the way to go for us, and because we're not going to need too many starters. We may, depending on what happens, a couple of these free agents, you know, and we have unlike you, we have 20 free agents that we have to pay. Um, some of them I like Michael Badgley, the kicker, who was out all last season. I think we're good with kicker because Pat, what's his face was pretty good. Um, I can't remember, think of his name right now. UFL guy.
Oh yeah.
Zeitler, I mentioned him. Uh, Kendall Vildor, I think he might be gone. Everybody likes Dan Skipper, but depending on how everything goes, he might not come back. Uh, Levi Onwuzurike, I already mentioned him. Pat O'Connor, who was great at the end of the season in a couple of those games, particularly I think the 49ers game. Uh, he probably won't be back. We had so many of these guys were on our practice squad, so and they all played, so it's kind of weird. Carlton Davis might be the other big one. Um, he he was the number one corner. If we don't bring him back, we're gonna need another corner. Uh, I liked I liked what's his face. I can't remember any of these names when I want to. Our other who we drafted in the first round last year. Um,
Oh,
he, mm,
Arnold, Terrion Arnold.
yeah, Terry Arnold. Yeah, don't. Why did you just draw a blank?
I'm glad that
But
I knew that.
yeah, I'm glad you did too. Yeah, Terry Arnold was good. Him and Brian Branch both had trouble adjusting to the penalties situation and
Mm.
being really aggressive of how they covered people. But he turned it around at the end. He was another one that was banged up in those final games. Uh, we're getting your boy back. He'll be scrappy and help.
With a new arm.
Uh, yeah, with a new arm. Dude, have you ever heard anybody breaking that part? Did you hear where he broke it? He
No,
broke it
I
at the
didn't.
upper half. He broke it up here.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
That
And
sucks.
then,
I like Amik. I miss Amik.
yeah, yeah, another thing back about this time last year, right after free agency, when it all went down, you texted me and goes, "You're gonna really like that guy,"
Yeah,
and
Amik is just one of those guys. So he's not the biggest corner, but
no,
the thing is if you tell him that, he gets very pissed off. And like
mm,
literally, so this is all you see. And I didn't watch enough of him on Detroit to see if he did this, but this is all you would see when he played for the
oh, he
Raiders
did.
is
Mm,
somebody would make a play on him, right? They would do
mm,
some celebration, mocking about how short he was because it was always a bigger receiver. And then the next like 3 plays were all interceptions because he'd be pissed off. And
yep.
that is what you get from
Ask
so
Justin Jefferson about that.
yeah.
Justin
So
Jefferson is
literally,
not gonna do that.
no, so like
Mhm,
Amik is literally the one person that I could say, and he backs it up every time. I've never seen it
yeah,
knock on wood for MG's sake. I've never seen it not work out for him. But the second this man gets called short, slow, unathletic, anything. The thing about Amik Robinson is every year he was on the team from getting drafted from Louisiana Tech, everyone thought he was going to get cut.
yep.
Everyone thought, and then he would make the team, and then he would play, and then he'd be good. And then the offseason would come, and you'd say, oh, Meek's going to get cut. He's not going to make it this year. And then the same shit would happen. And then it's time for him to get a contract, and he walks out the door, unfortunately for me. But, I love Amik. Amik is still has so much love for Raider Nation. If you know any Raiders content creators, Amik is actually still doing interviews with them because he loves our fan base. So Amik, welcome to the alumni brunches anytime. Unlike Devontae Adams, and there's
So
a few people that are not welcome to the alumni brunches. Warren Sapp, Randy Moss, Devontae Adams to kind of lead that list. But yeah, I miss Amik. I
I
miss Amik.
yeah, I think he's really good. A couple other guys we should probably mention is what they're doing. We got Jameson Williams. Everybody, he's a kind of a figure here. I don't know if you heard some of the stories of the offseason,
Well, I saw him
getting
hump the ground.
suspended. The arrested, yeah, getting arrested, things like that. So that's going to be a big thing to watch next year if they pick up that 5th year option or not with him, because if there's one position that you can kind of move on from, but if now he becomes a superstar, he takes it to the next level, and he turns into some sort of hybrid Tyreek Hill. That's a different
Hmm.
story. But I don't know. We're not there yet. But man, when he gets going, he can make a difference. So we'll talk about them. Obviously, St. Brown. Our offense is. Our, they're we're gonna have pretty much the same skill player offense starting as we did last year. There'll be a couple changes on on probably the O line, and that's it. So we're stacked to the gills. Just a matter of how they take to a new offensive coordinator. That's all I really got for Detroit. Do you have any questions about any of that or no?
Yeah, I mean, with the coaching changes, I mean, do you see the offense changing at all? Do you see the defense as far as scheme wise go, play call going? I don't know much
Defense, I
about
do.
I don't know
Defense, I
much
do.
about
Mm.
Aaron Glenn's philosophy, but I assume that the new offense coordinator for Detroit is not drawing up the same plays that Ben Johnson was
No.
drawing up.
And like I said, Calvin Johnson was a linebacker, so he's going to bring that. And one thing, Aaron Glenn really wanted to play man to man. That's what he wanted, but we couldn't get no pass rush, just none. Just even when Aiden was there at the beginning, and they were still kind of getting together, the pass rush struggled, and then all of a sudden, Aiden has 4.5 sacks in one game, and boom, we're off and running. So you know, we want to be like Philly. We want to be able to rush four and drop back and cover man to man. Um, and these guys, it's going to be a matter of if that defense. To me, that's the key. The offense, I don't think it's going to change too much because, like I said, Dan Campbell has his fingerprints all over it. So that's how I feel about that. Mm.
Okay. Well, moving on to our next segment, and that is where we dive into a little bit of the UFL news. Since we're already about 2 hours into this podcast right now, we're going to run through them and make it a little quicker so we can get into our version 1.0 of our mock drafts of round one. So to kick it off, training camps open on March 1st, despite a 5-day holdout by the quarterbacks in the UFL that ended right before camp began. Post on X from today and yesterday, including one from Field Level Media, reported that quarterbacks returned after negotiations through specific demands. Those specific demands, like pay raises or contract terms, remain unclear. The league's ability to proceed with camp opening has kept the focus on football, with the season scheduled to start on March 30th. The quarterback situation sparked major debates, specifically the Pat McAfee show, where they dismissed them as nobodies and basically told the quarterbacks to read the room. By Mike Mitchell highlighted that nearly 80 former NFL draft picks are on UFL rosters, and many of those guys are at quarterback, basically showing the stark divide in play between the NFL and the UFL. Media attention and perception, the quarterback holdout drew a lot of the mainstream media, once again, with it being discussed on ESPN. One post said that this labor strife is what got the UFL noticed, basically suggesting that the only reason people are paying attention to this season was because of this holdout. But with all that being said, camps are underway in Arlington for their centralized training program between the UFL, split between the XFL and USFL. They're going to have the 10-week season. No major roster moves or injuries have been dominating the headlines, mostly just this quarterback snag food situation. In my opinion, I'm kind of on the fence of somewhere between read the room and we need to pay a little bit more. I mean, there's just the hard thing with this is having the position based payout when you have guys that are obviously doing a lot more for the league than others in the same position. One name in particular, Jordan Tamu, in with the DC Defenders, outstanding quarterback, has brought a lot to the league, but because of the pay system before this deal, I don't know what it's at now, was making the same as all the other quarterbacks, essentially. MG, what's your take on all the stuff going on in the UFL?
Um, that is a mess, and they're right. The quarterbacks quarterback is hard to play. Okay, and there is such a discrepancy of the ones that get in the NFL and the ones that don't, and that's the biggest problem with the UFL is the quality of play is going to go through the quarterback. And you're going to find players that are going to make squads. I think half our practice squad at the end of the season was from the UFL. Um, but you will find players, and like I said before, we got a kicker, right? And this is a great audition for kickers. But other than that, the quarterback play is never going to be that good, and until they can pony up the money to poach a quarterback or two, a la Jim Kelly back in the original USFL, uh, you know, then when that needs to happen, before then, it's that it's going to be what it is. It's going to be mediocre play, and hope, and you'll find some gems in there somewhere. Mm,
Yeah, like Ben DiNucci.
mm. Yeah.
With that being said, I think is the time that we unveil our first round mock drafts. MG did one, I did one, and our graphic guy Enrique decided to create graphics for our mock draft.
I
So
forgot,
I will
I
add
forgot Enrique. I forgot about
Enrique.
him.
Enrique's with us in this version 3.0. So I guess I'll put up both our mock drafts and then we could each go through our individual one. We'll start out with you, but so actually we'll put yours up first and then you
Okay.
could run through it.
I'm
Actually,
not
how
gonna.
should we do this?
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't know.
not gonna. I don't think we should run through all of it. We'll just highlight a couple of them that make sense, and we'll go that
All right,
route.
well, here's both of them real quick.
Okay.
Right there you go. I don't know how well everyone could see it from
They're two
from
different sites, so but it's just the
yeah.
ones we
So
use.
two different sites. I've tried to, Enrique, excuse me, has tried to make the graphic as normal as possible to fit both of them
I
in
look
there.
like Dan Campbell.
So
Terrifying.
we'll go to MG's first.
Mm.
Right, and there is the great Enrique. So fun fact about this, Enrique had a real hard time with this graphic because if you don't know, MG has zero normal pictures of himself ever at all. So what I was
It was
told
fun.
is Enrique took a bunch of pictures of MG, ran them through an AI headshot creator, and then photoshopped the best headshot AI generated image that we could get onto um, a former coach. I don't even remember the coach that he used. It's not Ben Johnson or Eric Campbell. It's like a random strength and conditioning coach's body.
Gotcha.
But
Okay, fair. Mm.
MG, so if you would like to take us through your draft picks.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I mean, obviously, I think you and I have the same too. Abdul Carter. I think he's one of those guys that's just gonna go one regardless. Um, he's gonna be a stud. He's gonna be a scary boy. And Cameron Ward. This one I could go either way. What do you do with Deshaun Watson? Is he just gonna sit and eat your money for another couple of years? It looks at so. I guess you go with this guy. And then I have Travis Hunter. I don't know what to do with the Giants or what they're going to do. And I base this on the fact that they will take Aaron Rodgers. They will pick him up. That's why I went with this guy, uh, Will Campbell. So I have you guys taking in Mason Graham, Michigan. He's going to be a stud. I have you guys taking Shador Sanders because I think they'll double down on quarterbacks, like I said, so he doesn't have to start. A couple other ones in here. Okay, so Jerry Jones, we talked about at the beginning of the show how our issues with that man. Um, Ashton Genty at 12. I think they're going there.
Mm.
Um, and just because he likes those splashy players, but I have and I will talk about this a little bit later. I have something to rant about, but Ashton Genty to me isn't a third down back, a three down back. He's to me, he's a more of a scat back in the NFL. He's going to play the perimeter. He'll get his yards. He's going to be good, but I think especially his rookie year, he's gonna be undersized and the hard getting like between the tackles. So, but this is something that Jerry does. So that's where I have him going there. A couple of the other ones here. Most of those are pretty standard. Colson Loveland, he's going back to his old coach. He's going to go to the Chargers, and obviously, I have my guy. My guy's taking Devon Jackson, the outside linebacker from Ohio State, or it's going to be an edge rusher, but same thing in their scheme at least. So yeah, I don't. I mean, there's some other ones. Do you have any questions about any of these?
No, we have a couple differences and a couple similarities. So I'll get into mine right here. So this is mine right here. Now our first three are the same. We both agree I'm Abdul Carter, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter. My thought process is similar to yours. To answer your question that you had lingering on the Browns, I just think the Browns take a quarterback regardless, unless they trade out of
Fair.
that spot. So I think they take Cam Ward. Giants, I'm
You're
doing
four.
Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, James Ward, Travis Hunter for the Giants, just because I think that the Giants get a quarterback that they're okay with in free agency, and I don't think they risk losing out on a generational talent to help that quarterback as a Travis Hunter. Now, number 4 is where we change a
Yeah,
little bit. You
I'd
have
say
Will
so.
Campbell. Number 4 for me, I have halfback Ashton Genty. Now, a lot of people will say this is way too high for this pick. My response to you would be I'm looking at it analytically, right? The Patriots need weapons. What is the best friend to a young quarterback? A really good running back. I look back to Mike Vrabel, his career as a coach, when he was rocking and rolling in Tennessee. They had a solid quarterback in Tannehill at the time. But what did they have? They had a really fucking good running back by the name of, I don't know, maybe you recognize it, Derrick Henry. Now, I don't think Ashton Genty is the next coming of Derrick Henry, but I think
tiny.
he is a solid running back that could fit in a Josh McDaniels schematic offense. He could catch the ball out the backfield on those bajillion screen passes that they will throw, and he's somebody that Drake May could just turn the ball and hand it off to in the backfield. I believe they need a number one running back. I believe all those people that last offseason said running backs are not important are all biting their words. And I think we will see, especially in this draft in particular, where it's very strong at running backs, I think you will see a lot of teams address that need to find a true number one running back. And I think that starts at the 4th overall pick with the New England Patriots taking Ashton Genty.
Can I push back real quick before you move on?
Sure.
Just real quick. The only problem I have with taking a running back that high is the shelf life of a running back. You're running between the tackles. They tend not to break. But if he turns out to be pretty sturdy and he gets that second contract, it'll be worth it. But remains to be seen.
And what I would rebut with that is you sound like the Giants general manager, and I sound like Howie Roseman.
Okay, fair.
Which
you win.
Would be my response. Mason Graham, we have that locked in at number 5 together, going to Jacksonville. Jacksonville just needs a lineman, needs a defensive lineman, and I think that is a good person. Now the Raiders, we have the same person, and I have Shedeur Sanders. I have mentioned before that I am not 1,000% sold on Shedeur Sanders, and I think there's a chance that Shedeur isn't on the board at number 6. With that being said, if Shedeur is at 6 and you are comfortable with him being your quarterback, depending on what moves you make it for agency, I don't think you could pass him up if you're the Raiders sitting at 6, unless you have an offer on the table to move back and collect another second, a first that's somewhere still in the top 15, like something like that. And then you get off Shedeur. Number 7 is where I shake things up a bit. Jahdae Barron. Just something about his style as a cornerback, I think really resonates with Aaron Glenn more than Will Johnson. I think this
actually makes sense.
I think this is one of those pieces where he's not higher than Will Johnson on a lot of teams' draft boards, but every other team's draft board doesn't matter unless you're on the clock. So I think the Jets are more comfortable with the cornerback out of Texas than they am Will Johnson. And I think Will Johnson has a little bit of an unprecedented slide. Carolina, I'm going James Pierce, Tennessee. Great edge rusher. I think he would be great for them there in Carolina. Get a receiver from Arizona to the Saints, another weapon for Derek Carr, who the Raiders, who the Saints said they're committing with. I think that allows Will Campbell to fall to tackle to the Bears. I think he's athletic enough to fit in a Ben Johnson offense, and I think it adds a lot of something to that offense, and you need some offensive tackles to help protect
they definitely do.
Caleb Williams.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would say another tackle comes off the board with Membo right at number 11 with San Francisco. So you have 2 tackles back to back. Maybe someone trades up here at number 12 to get another tackle if they start seeing a run on tackles. No trades in our first round, so I have a wide receiver going to Dallas. I think you need another weapon for Dak. I mean, Dallas, once again, they need everything. More specifically, a new owner. So
I was going to say
that one you could just throw.
Get in the yacht, Jerry, and just go south and keep going.
Miami, their biggest need is a safety. They like safeties out of Georgia. Before Minka Fitzpatrick was with Pittsburgh, he was drafted by Miami, and I think he's a good. I think Malik Starks is a good fit down there in South Beach. The Colts, Tyler Warren, a tight end, a solid tight end, another weapon in the holster for Anthony Richardson if he is your guy. Jihad Campbell. You get a good linebacker that could also play edge in Atlanta, something they need. Kenneth Grant from Michigan. The Cardinals need a defensive tackle, so you bring in the big defensive lineman. Mike Green, edge rusher out of Marshall. I have going to Cincinnati, replacing Hendrickson, and I think that Mike Green is the most comparable edge rusher remaining on the board to Hendrickson, who they would be trying to replace. So that's why I have there. Donovan Ezeroko to Seattle. Will Johnson, I think, falls to 19 with Tampa Bay.
That's interesting to me. That's interesting. But
Tampa
okay.
Bay needs a corner. I think they could really beef up their defensive back. And I think if Will Johnson's sitting there at 19, there's no way you don't take him. And there was nobody between, I think, the Jets and number 19 in Tampa that need a cornerback that bad. I could see Will Johnson not making it here if a team trades up because they really want a corner. Denver, I believe, needs another wide receiver for Bo Nix, so get into wide receiver. Egbuka from Ohio State. Matthew Golden, go to wide receiver, go to the Steelers. Steelers really need a wide receiver, so I think that'd be a great one. Michael Williams out of Georgia, edge rusher. I think that would be great for the Chargers, who could be losing both their edge guys in Bosa and Khalil Mack. So you got to fill that gap. So I think that's perfectly safe for them. Josh Simmons to Green Bay, get them more protection for Jordan Love. Omarion Hampton, running back out of Minnesota. I think someone tries. I think 3 running backs possibly go in the first round, even though I only have 2 mocked here. I think Marion is probably the second running back off the board. I have heard a lot of rumors saying people actually have Omarion ahead of Genty on their draft board, so I don't think he makes it out of the first round. Houston gets a defensive lineman. Jalen Walker, linebacker. That just seems like the easiest LA Rams draft pick ever. Somebody that should be a top 15 pick that drops all the way to 26 and just falls in their lap. They need a good linebacker. They've been missing that voice on the defense since Aaron Donald left. So Jalen Walker, I think, would fit there. Darius Alexander, Toledo, go into the Ravens. The Ravens just seem like one of those teams that would hit a home run out of the park on You're texting me shit.
Oh, I'm just telling you I froze. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Keep talking.
He'll be right back. It looks like you're thinking, so no one could even really tell. I don't know what happens when you disappear. But I think the Ravens, Darius Alexander at Toledo, they just kind of seem like an organization that would draft a small name guy. Alexander was fucking amazing this college season out of Toledo, and I think he just makes all the sense in the world in that purple uniform. So at number 28 for your Detroit Lions, I actually got you guys going edge. You have this man going number 15. I haven't fallen all the way to 28 because I think there's a lot of edge guys and defensive linemen interior wise that could be drafted ahead of this guy. Sherman Stewart out of Texas A&M. I think he could fall to you guys. I think he would fit great in a Dan Campbell team. I think he'd be another good bookends to Aiden Hutchinson. So that's who I think having you guys. Kelvin Banks Jr., the tackle out of Texas, get more protection for Jaden Daniels. He was sacked quite a lot last year. Walter Nolan, defensive lineman from Ole Miss. I think that would be a good fit for Buffalo, who could be possibly losing Von Miller once again. And also just throw this out there. I think Von Miller would be an amazing addition to the Detroit team. I think Gray Zabel, North Dakota State tackle, goes to Kansas City. They bolster up that offensive line, and it's just like Andy Reid to draft the fucking North Dakota State guy in the fucking first round and him being all-star. And then Tyler Booker, the guard out of Alabama, I think would be the perfect fit for Philly. I mean, based on given his stats, he's 6'5", 330. I mean, do you want another bigger guy to do the tush push? I think yes, and I think Tyler Brook, the guard out of Alabama, is the guy to do that. So that being said, here are our mock drafts together. And MG, what say you?
I'll say this: as long as I have one rule for where Detroit pick with that 28th pick, if they actually pick it there, there's two words that come to mind: big people. I don't need I need either a good edge guy, which you got us going to, a big monster D lineman, another one, because we got DJ Reader who takes up space in the middle, but he's kind of a he's had injuries and stuff and getting up there. So yeah, I do like that pick. You don't have I don't see Loveland on here, do you? You don't have the tight end on here, do you?
No, the only tight end I have going in the first round is Tyler Warren at 14 to the Colts out of Penn State.
Interesting. Okay, that's the only one that I if I say I don't think he would be in there. But other than that, yeah, cool.
So the cool thing about this is we will keep doing these every episode up until the draft, and we'll go back and see where they're at. So our next one,
and they'll probably get narrowed in a little better as we go.
So
too.
And that's what I was just about to say. Next week's mock drafts will actually come the first day after the tampering period, so we will kind of already have an idea of some free agency things where guys are re-signing on their own.
Needs will change. Yes,
needs will change, and the Raiders might not need a quarterback at 6, but there might be a team willing to trade up to 1. We don't know. We don't know anything. We are not the insiders. We are just some fans right now.
They're just random thoughts and trying to put it together.
But with that
Can
being
I tell you
said,
my last thing? Yeah. Oh, you're gonna let me.
Yeah.
Okay.
With that being said, we like to end these podcasts for some reason with MG going off on a rant. So MG, I know you have a lot to say. We're already at 2 hours. So
I will make this fairly brief and this is regarding to something that came out about a week ago, and it is
about a week ago.
Was it about a week ago?
No, sorry, that's just that's a song called "Hot," and I can't say the second word of the song name. But yeah,
fair enough.
About a week ago was a lyric in the song. Yeah,
gotcha. Yeah. Okay, so a young gentleman. I use that very loosely. One Mel Kiper came out with his latest mock draft, and to say that this guy I think he did it at the with a few cocktails at the old the ESPN, whatever bars across the street from the ESPN studios, because this guy he actually started out like we did, Jonathan, the same ones. But then when we get to the middle, our first 3 are the same. I'm going to keep talking even though my thing died again, and then we'll just leave it as it is. Oh, it came back.
Yeah,
oh, good. Yes. So yeah, we're fairly similar, and then we get to pick 6, your Las Vegas Raiders, and I am going to defend you to the near end. Now, you said you like this guy, this running back. I think this is irresponsible to someone putting these together, not to look at what the teams need and realize that although they need weapons, you need a quarterback. And if there's one there that you can take and it's going to make a difference, and you need to go for it. I don't know what he was thinking putting these together. I really don't. He's Shador Sanders. He's got going to the Jets, which, yeah, that would make sense. That's great. But there's no way Shador should get that far in this draft. Knowing on needs. And that's what, and I think part of what he does is he tries to pick splashy players that might play in print and he can play off of. Because I think you'll never guess where Shador goes or something like that in the headline when they were putting it out. So to me, this is asinine how he does things. I think maybe he's just a little out of touch. It will change as time goes on, but some of these guys, I do like some of them, but there's some in here that I just look and I went, why are you putting that guy there? But I was very irritated about Ashton Genty going to your Raiders when you guys need everything else first before you
Well,
have a
first off,
before you have a
can
quarterback.
we obviously free agency needs to get here, but I'm tired of the narrative that the Raiders need every single fucking position. Okay,
No, you won't. You won't. And you're right. Once it gets there, but I'm saying as it stands now, you do need a lot. Like I said, compared to what my team has. The but but the way he does his mock drafts sometimes just drives me nuts. It's like who people like the most. It's almost like it's entertainment instead of informative and not studying the needs of the players. And I just froze again.
And on that note, as MG is making gang signs, froze. we, we will make it a wrap for this week's episode of I Don't Give a Football. I don't know if we're calling this episode 1.5. We did an episode 1 last year, and then I had the mental breakdown. But with that being said, we will be back next Wednesday. Majority of Wednesdays from here on out. I'm Jonathan Risk. MG Geek is frozen over there right now, somewhere in Detroit. We will see y'all next time. Make sure you go ahead, like, subscribe, be a friend, tell a friend, share this with somebody that you know is a Raiders or Lions fan. I'm sure they will appreciate some more content from their own kind. But until next time, we shall see y'all. Peace.